All right. Hello, everyone. How are we all doing this week? A bit of mixed feelings this week. There's a lot of things happening over here in Nigeria. People are unhappy, but as they say in show business, the show must go on. And so I am coming to record this week's episode. For the last 4 or 5 weeks, if I'm not mistaken, we've been on a series that I titled Types or Trauma, where we're basically talking about how we as individuals, we as adults, select our partners based on our upbringing, based on the trauma we had in our upbringing, based on the kind of people that we had as mentors or examples as we were children. Essentially, this series is helping us dig into ourselves to find out if the person or the kinds of people that you say are your type, especially if these people wreak havoc in your life, cause you pain, turmoil, and just all sorts of bad things, and you keep finding yourself attracted to this certain type of person. We did this series because it is possible that they may be your trauma, not your type. And until you're able to heal the emotional wounds that you incurred whenever they happened, either as a child, as an adult, from work, from previous relationships, it is possible that you will keep going for the same type that is not necessarily healthy for you. So that is the basis on which we've been running this series, and we are going to be bringing it to a close this week. Today, like I promised, we are going to be talking about ways to heal these insecure attachment styles. Obviously, I cannot exhaust all of the ways. I cannot talk about everything on one episode. So I encourage you, please, whenever you watch these episodes, if you hear about things that pique your interest or seem to resonate with you, go and study, go and do further research, and knowledge is your friend. So, without further ado, let us get into today's episode.
Does she like me? Was that a date or a hang? Is she single? Wait, what are we? Is it too soon to say I love you? Should I call him now or should I just wait? Maybe I should wait. Wait, should I let her go? Why did he just ghost me like that? Wait, can't we work it out? Is he an F-boy? Is she toxic? We hooked up. Why is he saying we're just friends? Let's face it. Relationships are the best thing when they work and a nightmare when they flop. You're recklessly giddy when Cupid's arrow sticks you in the arse, and a nervous, pain-filled wreck when he comes to take his love away. There's hardly anyone who cannot relate to the dizzying highs and debilitating lows of relationships. We are naturally wired for connection, so when that's messed with, it can make us feel crazy. Enter Bambazeled. On this show, we help you figure out if you are being bamboozled by your bae. That's it. Nothing else, nothing fancy, just a real, raw, honest to heavens, and hopefully helpful take on the best to the worst of relationships and everything on the spectrum in between. No topic is off limits, no situation is too taboo or embarrassing. Give us everything. So, if you're wondering if you're being bamboozled by your bae, don't walk, run here. This is your new home. I am your new bestie, and I've got you. Now, let's figure out if you're being bambazeled.
Now, I am not unaware that I haven't talked about all the attachment styles. I'm very aware. There's two more that I haven't talked about. There's the secure attachment style and the disorganized, or what they call fearful avoidant or something attachment style. Now, the reason I'm not talking about those two, one, I don't want to stretch this series too long, but also I feel like most people fall into the anxious or the avoidant attachment styles. And I believe that we do have enough information from the episodes we've done over the weeks to go and do our own research on attachment styles. And I don't want to draw this out too long because we do have a few stories and letters that have come in, and I do want to resume reading from you guys. So we're going to bring this to a close. We're going to land this plane and talk about how to heal your anxious and or avoidant attachment styles. I want to quickly recap on some of the ways that these attachment styles show up in relationships. So, how an anxious person behaves in their relationship and how an avoidant person behaves in their relationships. And I'm just going to quickly recap so that now that we're talking about the ways that you can heal these behaviors, you have something to put them against and something to reference. All right, so if you're good students and you remember what we've been talking about, we said that the anxious, we started with the avoidance, and avoidant people suppress emotions, suppress emotional expression. They have this way that they distance themselves from emotions because when they were young, when they were growing up, they grew up with parents or primary caregivers or people in their lives who either shamed them, mocked them, devalued them, dismissed them, ignored them, or punished them for when they came from the emotional space within themselves. And so they put that place away, they put that space away, they locked that door, and they operate from a more logical, removed, detached, emotional space. Now, it is important to say that the avoidant people, one of their biggest fears, because they have so long been detached from their emotional body, they feel like emotional connection is like suffocation, and it's like being smothered. And so that's one of the reasons why they fight so much for their independence, and they fight so much that they go to the extreme of being independent. Give me space. For them, space is safe because that was the only place that they found safety when they were developing. They found safety in being removed from people because they were forced to function from a place of being removed from people. And now their brain associates that with safety. And so when you're coming into them, it signals, the brain makes it feel like, oh, danger, 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 danger. This is not safe. Emotional closeness is not safe. It is suffocating. It is a threat. So let us swing quickly to the ways that avoidant people show up in relationships. So with the avoidant, there's a lot of emotional distance. We've talked about emotional distance a lot. There is a lot of emotional distance, and we've talked about how anxious and avoidant people emotionally distance themselves. They pull themselves back, they pull themselves away from their partner emotionally. They can have sex with you, you guys can live together, they can buy you stuff, but emotionally, they are not connected and intertwined with their partner. So, avoidant people keep their partner at arm's length. The way I'm about to push you people away from me a little bit because you're right in my face. So avoidant people keep their partners at arm's length. They avoid deep emotional intimacy and they often withdraw during conflicts. You can see how if an avoidant is with an anxious person goes in during conflicts because they need to resolve it, because things need to be fine in the relationship for things to be fine in the anxious person. The avoidant person withdraws during conflict. And so let me show you what it looks like. Anxious, avoidant. Conflict has happened. The avoidant person pulls away. The anxious person pushes in. And so conflicts hardly ever get resolved when an anxious and an avoidant person are together, because where one is pushing in, the other is pulling away, pushing in, pulling away, pushing in, pulling away. And so there is never a meeting of the two of them in a safe space where they can resolve the conflict in a healthy way. Another way that avoidant people show up in relationships is a fear of dependence. We talked about this last time. Avoidant people resist reliance on their partners for emotional support. They prefer to handle problems alone by themselves, and they often downplay the importance of relationships. To the avoidant person, their relationship is the least important thing to them. That's what they think mentally. Even though emotionally they can be in love with that person, emotionally they can want that person in their life. But in the hierarchy of importance, the hierarchy of what is important for the avoidant, the relationship is not number one. If there are 5 things that are the most important thing to the avoidant person, their relationship is not going to be in the top 4. It's probably not even going to make it into the top 5. Because remember, for them, relationships, existing in a relational space where heightened emotions were at play, caused pain for them. Their crying wasn't responded to. Their pleading for connection wasn't responded to. All of those things weren't responded to. What was responded to was when they were a good child. And a good child for an avoidant parent looks very much like, go and sort it out on your own. Go and figure it out on your own. Miss me with all the crying and the whatever. When you are collected and together, come and meet me. Come and meet daddy. Come and meet mommy. It looked a lot like being teased when you cry. It looked a lot like being mocked for being soft. It looked a lot like when a father would call his son a sissy if his son cries. Things like that. So they stay away from their emotional body. But where does a relationship exist? Where does it blossom and bloom? In the space of both people's emotional world. And so you see why it is difficult for relationships with an avoidant person to blossom and bloom, because you might be in the world of emotional relating with them, but they are not in a space of emotionally relating with you. So they fear depending on other people, especially their partners. They want to seem like they've got it all sorted out. They've got it all figured out by themselves. They don't need your help. They certainly do not need you. Even if, let me tell you something that's funny about avoidant people. Even when an avoidant person has been broken up with or breaks up with their partner, even if they're missing that partner, even if they are missing them and they want to be back with them, an avoidant person, their wiring can convince them, can talk them out of going after their partner, because it requires them to come into a space that they are so deathly afraid of coming into, which is relational connection, emotional connection. If I come after you, I'm telling you that I need you. And an avoidant person has been trained to believe that needing people lands them in pain and ridicule and being looked down on or being mocked or being taken advantage of. And so that wiring will kick into gear. Even if they want to see this person desperately, they will say, no, me going to meet them, me going to make peace with them is me admitting to them that I need them, and I don't need anybody. That is their wiring. And that's how an avoidant person gets in their own way in the space of relationships. A third way is difficulty in expressing their feelings. Avoidants struggle to articulate their emotions. They do so that they don't feel. Now, let's make sure that we're not saying that avoidants are these unfeeling pieces of driftwood. No, they feel. They do feel. We all feel. However, the avoidant person is well trained and well skilled at putting away what they feel in service of what they think. And often what they think is at loggerheads with what they feel and what is healthy for them to show and give to their partner to keep the emotional space of that relationship healthy for both of them. They struggle to articulate their emotions. They often seem cold or indifferent. There are times when you've been with someone or you are someone who feels like you're expressing your very best, but people end up fighting with you anyway. And it's like, but what did I say? But what did I say that was so bad? What did I say that was so bad? To you, you have expressed your emotion. To other people, you are cold and dismissive and indifferent and sometimes downright nasty. Why? Because those people are in connection with their emotions and the avoidant person is not. So they are thinking from here when they are addressing a matter that concerns here. And it can often come off as indifferent, dismissive, like they don't care, like they don't like you. And sometimes the avoidant doesn't know that they're doing this. Sometimes they do, but sometimes they don't. Another thing that avoidant people do is they avoid discussions about their relationship. So you have people who, whenever you want to talk about the relationship, they're unavailable. It becomes a fight. They start to sulk. They start to get testy. They go, they express irritation. This is annoying me. Why are you doing this? Why are we talking about the relationship? That's another way that avoidant people show up in relationships. When they do this, what the avoidant doesn't realize is that they are creating the very conflict that they run away from. They're creating the very conflict that is going to cause their partner to reach deeper into them for emotional connection, because their behavior is making their partner feel emotionally disconnected from. And when I don't have the emotional connection I require, I'm going to seek for it. Now, in me seeking for it, my avoidant partner is running away from it. They run away, I seek. Well, not me. When they run away, their partner seeks. They run away, their partner seeks. The more their partner seeks, the more threatened the avoidant feels. The more threatened the avoidant feels, the more they run away. The more they run away, the more their partner seeks. And then it becomes this toxic, unbearable cycle for both people in the relationship. It causes misunderstandings. It causes people to feel like they're unloved, like they're unappreciated. It makes the partner who is not the avoidant feel like they cannot understand this person's needs, and they cannot fill or fulfill this person's needs because their partner acts like, I'm good. When it comes to relationships, emotional stuff, I'm good. A friend died, a friend passed on, they don't want to cry in front of their partner. Their partner goes to hug them and hold them. They shake the partner off like, I'm good. No, I'm good. Don't worry, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. And so you can imagine being in a relationship with someone who is always, I'm good, when it comes to emotional stuff. And you want to express with them emotionally, but they're always like, mm-mm. You see how hard that can be for their partner. A fourth way that avoidants show up in their relationships is how they prioritize independence. Now, the avoidant person places a very unhealthily high value on personal space and independence. They often avoid commitments that could in their minds, limit their freedom. So they have a warped view of freedom. One, a warped view of dependence and independence, and a warped view of how much independence is healthy. So the avoidant person is the person who's thinking, hey, do you, I'ma do me. When we need to like knock boots, roll around in the bed, get it on. Maybe when we need to travel, when we need to go shopping or whatever, we can come into each other's space physically. But please stay separate from me emotionally. Now, that is unhealthy when you are never able to come into the emotional connection with your partner. It is also unhealthy on the other end with the anxious person who is unable to separate themselves emotionally from their partner and have their own autonomous being and identity emotionally. So you see how both of them are on two opposite ends of the spectrum. The avoidance, desperate, almost unshakable prioritizing of independence, it leads to a lot of separation anxiety for their partners. It leads to a lot of spaces and holes and gaps in the relationship because your partner is always separating themselves from you and you want to come close. You didn't get into a relationship to feel like you were single. And if there's one thing an avoidant person is gonna make their partner feel like, if they're gonna feel like they are alone. Emotionally, they're gonna feel like they're alone. So for instance, your partner who is either healthily attached or anxiously attached can say, hey, I'm going on a trip. And the first thing they're thinking about is my partner. I want to go on this trip with my partner. How much are tickets going to cost? Where can we go that we can both enjoy? How can we create an experience that is good, fun for both of us? An avoidant person can find that smothering. An avoidant person can be like, no, like you want to, yeah, if you want to travel, yeah, go ahead, travel, like it's fine. Saying something like that to the avoidance is like, oh, I'm saying go and have fun, like go and have your fun. Hearing it from the place of an anxious person is like, I can do good without you. I'm fine without you. And you should be fine without me. And if you're not fine without me, then you're like a pathetic this thing. Like that's what the anxious person is hearing. The securely attached person is hearing, I am not going to make plans for my life with you in consideration. And that is why I wouldn't ask you or I react by rejecting your plans when you make plans considering me in them. That is, whether you're anxious or secure or whatever, that is not good messaging to get in a relationship. A fifth and final way for this discussion that avoidant people show up in their relationships is how dismissive they are of their partner's needs, especially their emotional needs. So avoidant people minimize a lot. They are very minimizing of people's feelings and emotions. Something has hurt you. The avoidant person is going to make you feel stupid for being hurt. They're going to make you feel like you're overreacting for being sad. They're going to make you feel like you are foolish for feeling as deeply as you feel. So they minimize your feelings. So an avoidant partner will minimize or completely ignore their partner's emotional needs, often viewing them as overreacting or too needy. I want to sit and hang with you. We haven't seen each other all week. And I'm like, babe, I'm not happy. I haven't seen you all week. A securely attached partner will be like, I understand. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I've been so busy, or I'm sorry that I haven't made you feel like a priority. You are a priority to me, and I'm going to make some time this week for us to spend just you and me. An avoidant person would have a different response. Their response can be very like, what in their mind, what is going on is, why is this person trying to control me? Why is this person trying to smother me and suffocate me? They feel like the bare minimum that they have given should tide you over for as long as they are willing, or as long as they need to stay away from you. And you should be satisfied with that until they're ready to come into connection with you again and drop small more, validation, small more reassurance, small more emotional connection, and then they withdraw again. But that's not the way relationships work. That's just not the way that they work. And so you can see how this would be a problem for their partner who is saying, I'm not okay with the fact that my partner, my boyfriend if you're a girl, or my girlfriend if you're a boy, can go 24 hours without speaking to me, even if they're angry. Because if you're going 24 hours without speaking to me, it means that anything, good or bad, that has happened to me in those 24 hours, you don't care about. You don't care if I've eaten. You don't care if I was in an accident. You don't care if people broke into my car or broke into my house. You don't care if I had a bad day. Now, if because you're mad at me, you can decide not to speak to me for an entire day, the avoidant is thinking, I'm taking space. I don't need to respond to this person's emotional needs. Their partner is hearing it as, this person doesn't really give a shit about me. And you can only take that messaging on long enough before you say, hey, if they don't give a shit about me, what am I doing with them? Why am I here? So you can see how their refusal to respond to their partner's emotional needs. Sometimes it's an outright refusal where your avoidant partner can see you sulking, they can see you moody, they can see you crying, and they can go out. They can act like they haven't seen it. They respond like your emotions are an inconvenience to them, thereby increasing the distress that their partner is already feeling. And then if their partner is anxious, the partner amplifies that distress. The avoidant person continues to walk away or suppress. And then they continue like that until some explosion happens and both people are yelling at each other, or both people are slamming doors at each other, or both people are walking out on one another. This dismissive, I don't give a shit, I can do without you behavior that the avoidants tend to exhibit it can lead to resentment and frustration from their partner because their partner feels that their needs are not being acknowledged or respected. They feel like, I am not important to you. And because of how intimate, the kinds of things that happen in intimate relationships, the kinds of things that are shared, the experiences you have together, even if you guys are physically intimate, sex is a very, to me, very sacred practice. It's a very vulnerable space to be in. As a woman, someone is coming into your body, into your very being. And as a man, you're exposing yourself and driving your energy, driving your passion, driving your desire into someone. You're there on display for this person to approve of or not approve of. It's a very vulnerable space to be in. So you can imagine having that depth of vulnerability on the one hand with this person. And then right next door to that, in the same relationship, is this complete and total disconnection from emotions, this complete and total coldness, dismissiveness, disapproval, irritation, impatience with your partner. It's so confusing for the partner to be in, and it leads to resentment because it's how can I give you so much of me and then you give me so little of you? The avoidant doesn't understand this. The anxious person over understands it. The secure person is right there smack in the middle and is able to identify that this person is not able or not willing to give me the part of themselves that I require to feel safe in this relationship. And because of that, I'm going to bounce. Now we're going to get to the meat of this discussion. And it is how we can heal our attachment, our insecure attachment styles. Yeah? Okay, so if you're an avoidantly attached person or you know someone that's avoidantly attached, you can tell them these things. All right, so the avoidant needs to increase, guess what? Can anybody tell me what it is? Emotional awareness. You need to increase your emotional awareness. It is not bad or unsafe or silly or foolish to have emotions, to feel them, and to express them, and to let other people see that part of you. You are not an idiot. You're not a fool. You're not a weakling. You're not an inconvenience if you let people into your emotional space. But in order for you to let people into that space, you have to first go into it. You have to go and find those keys where you threw them, unlock that door, and walk in. Scary as it might be, walk in, sit in your emotional body, and experience everything that comes up, and see that it won't kill you. It's not the big bad monster that it was when you were young and you couldn't control things. You can do this by journaling. And I know that avoidant people are going to say, I beg, what is journaling? I beg. It is such a therapeutic, important, useful practice. When you journal and you go back and read your thoughts, sometimes you're like, wait a second, is this how I think? Is this where I was at in life? Now, if you practice emotional awareness, it's going to be rough at first because that was the place that you were most threatened and most hurt when you were young. So don't rush, but also don't retreat. Stay in the discomfort. Push past the discomfort. And like a very skilled lover would say to their maybe less experienced partner, this might be uncomfortable at first, but if you trust me, I know what I'm doing and I will get you past the discomfort. Treat yourself like that and hold your own hand. And the moment it gets uncomfortable, where you would usually retreat, stop and go further in. A second way that you can start to heal the avoidant attachment is practicing vulnerability. I know the V word, we don't like the V word, but if you weren't meant to experience it, God would not have created you with the ability to do so. So, practice vulnerability. Practice vulnerability. Let softness penetrate you. And don't be afraid of softening yourself. Gradually open up to your partner about your thoughts and your feelings. If it is too jarring for you, start with less sensitive topics. Start with things that you wouldn't feel like, oh, I'm all out there, I'm exposed, I'm spread ego, and anything can happen to me. Start with things that you're less sensitive about. And I can't stress this enough. Do this with someone that you've identified is safe for your emotions. Don't do this with another avoidant. Please don't do this with another avoidant person who is going to reinforce to you your already faulty wiring that emotions are unsafe. And you tell them something deep and they laugh in response, or they dismiss you in response, or they say, guy, you're a man, grow up now, you men not supposed to. No. Find someone who has shown you that you are safe with them, who has held you in safety emotionally in the past, and try to begin to experiment with vulnerability around that person. And the more you do it, the more you find this is not as unsafe as I thought. If you are able to become even a fraction more comfortable with vulnerability, you have no idea the changes, the positive changes and the positive effects that will have on your relationships. You will build intimacy and you will enjoy it in a way that you've never ever enjoyed it before. You will build trust in your relationship. Your partner will feel more like they are with a human being than with a robot. And it will be easier to connect with you. Avoidant people get a bad rap sometimes because of how cold and sometimes cruel they can be with their partners or with their friends or within their relationships. And I'm saying that I don't think that the avoidant people necessarily like that. They're not doing it because they enjoy doing it. I'm saying to you, if you're an avoidant person, you can change that by practicing vulnerability, because people will find it easier to emotionally connect with you and they won't be running away from you all the time. Yeah? All right. A third thing that you can do to help heal your insecure attachment would be you have to develop communication skills. You have to develop your communication skills. You have to develop your communication skills. Learn and practice effective communication techniques. Actively listen. There's something that avoidant people do. They're with you, but they're not there. You can be talking to them and they can hear you, but they're not listening to what you're saying. There's a difference between hearing with your ears and listening with your heart. And avoidant people struggle to listen with their heart. It is the reason why someone can say to you, I'm struggling, I'm sad, and you heard it with your ears. And your response is, Uncle, do you know that we have rent to pay? You're here talking about being sad. If you hear that with your heart, what you would likely do in that scenario would not be to dismiss this person. It would not be to laugh at them or mock them. It would not be to ignore them. It would not be to run away from them. You would approach them from your own heart, because they are speaking, you're hearing that this person is speaking to you from their heart, not from their head. And very often, and it is very unlikely that when a person speaks from their heart and you respond from your head, that you will ever have a meeting of minds. The responsibility is on each of us to be able to identify where a person is speaking from at any given time. Are they speaking to me from my head? From their head? Are they speaking to me from their heart? And it is being able to identify this that now determines where you respond to them from. So, babe, my boyfriend comes and meets me and says, babe, he should be able to come and meet. My boyfriend should be able to come and meet me and say, babe, baby, I feel overworked. I feel overwhelmed. I feel like I am not able to meet all the demands that are on me. And quite frankly, I'm afraid right now. He should know that I'm a safe enough space for him to say that. But it is me that will show him that I'm a safe enough space for him to say that, by how I've responded to his other bids for emotional connection in the past. Now imagine if a man comes to you and says that to you, and your response to him is, or, babe, sorry, just give me a minute. Let me go and I have to take this phone call because you're so uncomfortable with his vulnerability. Or you call your mother, or call your family and say, can you imagine this man is here telling me he's afraid? If he's afraid, what should I now be? What should I now be? Is it not all of us that said that? Or worse off, you say it to him. Or you say nothing and he meets a blank stare. Or he said that to you in the morning and he went off to work. By the time he comes back in the evening, it's time for you guys to go to bed. When he tries to touch you, you feel irritated, like this man wasn't masculine enough, and he was like, just like, babe, I'm not really in the mood. And it's not that you're not in the mood. It is that you were triggered by his vulnerability. And you are punishing him indirectly, or passively punishing him for being what people would term being the woman or being feminine in the relationship. And this is one of the things that pushes men not to talk, pushes men away from telling women their deep struggles because of the ways that women respond to these struggles. So you need to learn to develop effective communication skills. And I went into that example because developing effective communication skills is a two-pronged approach. You have to learn it on your own, but you have to practice it with safe people. Because if you practice it with unsafe people, no matter how good your communication skills are, they're going to make you feel stupid. They're going to make you feel inept. They're going to make you feel like, why did I even say anything in the first place? When you are able to effectively communicate with your partner, you are able to tell them where you're at. And if you're with a good partner, They're able to meet you there and hold you there and be with you in that space. But if your partner doesn't know where you are, and I don't mean physically, I mean mentally, emotionally, how can they find you? How can they meet you there? You need to give people the chance to not feel you. And it is scary, but if you do and you cross that bridge, the benefits are myriad and amazing. Number 4, challenge your negative beliefs. No one can do this one for you. If you find that you're an anxiously attached person and an avoidantly attached person, you need to identify and challenge the negative beliefs that you hold about intimacy, about closeness, about emotional vulnerability, about dependence, about relying on others. And once you identify them, you need to start to rewire and replace with more positive beliefs. You are driven by your beliefs. We are driven by our beliefs. And if we don't have a shift in our mindset, once we have identified that our mindset is faulty, which is why the number one thing is self-awareness, we cannot create any change. You were made to believe that emotional closeness, emotional dependency, vulnerability, all of these things were weak and they were for weak people. You believe that because the people who made you feel that way were more often than not in positions of strength, relational strength to you. So your parent is bigger, they are faster, they are stronger. For a time of your life, your parents are literally the difference between whether you survive or not. And so if the stronger person in the dynamic disapproves of your emotions and makes you feel like emotions are for weak people, emotional expressions are for weak people, then you begin to believe that if I do this, I am weak. And if I am weak, I am at a higher threat for pain. So I'm not going to be weak. But emotional vulnerability is not weakness. They're not even in the same book. And so you have to shift your mind from the space of thinking, this stuff is for weak people, and see emotional vulnerability as strength. It takes strength to be vulnerable. It takes strength and bravery to be open. Let me tell you why. Because when you're open, yes, you are more susceptible to being hurt. You are more at risk of being hurt. But let me tell you, the person who opens themselves to pain without fear is also the person who knows they can heal from it if it happens. If you lock yourself away from vulnerability because you don't want to experience that pain, it means that you are actually weaker. Refusing to interact with your emotions makes you the weak thing that you are trying to not be. Because if you interact with your emotions and you interact with other people's emotions, you know that there is a risk of hurt. You know that there's a risk of pain. You know that this person can walk out of your life. You know that this person can hurt you. But like I said, you also know more than that you can heal and that you can survive. If that is not strength, I don't know what is. All right, I think that this is a great place for us to break this episode, and we will be back again next week to conclude on this exciting series that we have been talking about, where we address truly the ways that we can heal these insecure attachment styles. You know what time it is? Sign off with me. In life, we can either do better or we can do worse. Let us try to find ourselves in the former more than we are in the latter. Stay safe. out there in those relationship streets. Make sure that you are not bamboozling or being bamboozled by babe. I will see you again in the next episode. And until then, please let love guide you always. Bye for now.